Hi, kids.
Hi.
Hi, Dad.
Hello.
Hi, hi.
Okay, so just to explain, I have my kids on for this episode. This is actually a late episode because I wanted to do a Father's Day episode and it completely slipped my mind. Welcome, Kish. Welcome, Rock.
Glad to be here.
Wow.
Hello.
Thanks, Rock. Hello, Kish. Are you glad to be here?
I too am glad to be here.
Okay. So, can you just do like a short intro of who you are, what you do, and then let's get into some easy conversations after that.
Okay, go
Kish.
ahead.
Okay. Um, Me first. Okay. So hi, I'm Kish. John's firstborn, only daughter. so um, I'm currently working. I work as an ESG analyst. I won't get into the nitty gritty because it's gonna be pretty boring. But yeah, I'm working. On the side, I have a YouTube channel, so I do covers, and
Subscribe.
I'm the least experienced. I'm the least experienced podcaster on the show. So I'm happy to be here. Hello, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks, Kish. Rock.
Hi, yeah. So I'm Rock. I'm the youngest. I'm the last born. I study
There's only
currently.
two.
It's
There's
only
only
two.
two of us.
I
Okay.
currently study in UANP, University of Asia Pacific. I take the
Ooh,
course
go
in
Dragons.
media management. Go Dragons. Other than that, I guess since Kish also said that she's the least, podcaster type, I did take part of a podcast before. I joined the group. We were called Discussion Room 95. We transitioned into Puddle Yard. And other than that, I don't really have any other credentials at the moment, but um, hopefully in the future I'll get to fill that out. But right now I'm just trying to get through college, which is a great time. But yeah,
A strange time, but a
yeah.
great time nonetheless. Okay, so these are my two kids. So Kish, how old are you? You didn't say
Oh, I'm 23.
23, and
So
Rock is
still pretty
I'm
young.
20.
20 and 23. So, and I wanted to get into a recorded conversation with my kids because we talk all the time. We enjoy, like many families, we enjoy having a good conversation over dinner, over drink sometimes, or I hang out in Kishi's bedroom. Rock and I run into each other in the kitchen. We get to talk. But like many families, our most meaningful conversations are. I would say, you guys can disagree. To me, it's over food. It's always like when we're eating. So it's either lunch or dinner, and on vacations, which we love doing. Jade and I, my wife, Jade and I always say that our best investment is really, of course, the education of our kids, a house over or roof over our heads, and that's equally important, the vacations that we invest in with our kids. So we traveled quite a lot before the pandemic, and that all stopped. So we're just waiting for the next time to go. So there's the intro of my family, of my kids. On something light, just to get a light hearted conversation. So I just wanted to get your opinion. I know some of your thoughts because again we talk often, but just something light. What do you guys think about cancel culture?
I knew you were gonna do that.
You wanna go first?
No,
Kish.
go ahead.
Okay, Rock, go.
Funny because I remember in DR we had a whole episode about this, and we had to do so many tweaks, and it was a whole process of trying to iron out all the details. Uh, okay, cancel culture. It's a big thing. I think what I like to do first is set like what I think it is by and large. So you could search a whole 100 definitions about what cancel culture means, about how it started, why it started, why people thought that it was meaningful to find what's the word for this, to not just call out people but to give responsibility to certain events and actions that people did online, mostly online. I think nowadays, obviously, now that we're all stuck in, a lot of us have been stuck indoors for at least a year and a half. People have been using, social media twice, thrice as much every day. I can attest to that. By and large, cancel culture, I think, was generally just a response for many people who were aware of what you could do with a digital app, how you can call out certain things that you simply can't on your own. It became a very easy way to feel like you were a big part of something. Um, and I think just to kind of put it forth out there, it's like I don't want to ramble on about this certain thing. It's a big thing, but I think what a lot of people get wrong about it and what a lot of people get right about it is two things. What they get wrong about it usually is that you use it as a tool to feel gratification. And what I mean by that is that if you feel like you're responsible to see something that you think is wrong, it's such an easy way to just tweet something or to message friends you have and then, message or put on message boards or on, apps like Messenger to collectively call out something you think is wrong. Like case in point, you'll see many current artists, current people in big media, let's say, I guess the most general thing I can think of is not so recently someone like James Gunn in the movie industry. If you call that for something you said before that was by what people define as racist or sexist, um, that happened to him. And what I mean by this is that, again, a lot of people will use it as a way to instantly feel good. And they will only stick to that good for so long. The moment that you call something out once, you feel as if you did something and that you don't need to feel the responsibility to take more action or to be more aware of the issue. You just drop it right after you tweet something or whatnot. And that's exactly why I feel like a lot of people have become so, not angry, but I feel like a lot of people have become so vindicated against people that try to take part in something like that. And that's the fault of the people taking a part of this whole culture of overblowing the point of why it's there. Then on the flip side, people that are misunderstood for participating in something like that, something that can be umbrella termed as cancel culture, they're just trying to use the platforms given to them to genuinely spread information about something that's wrong. And there's a lot of ways you can twist the word wrong, and it depends on your perspective. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people my age are very keen on seeing a lot of good in the world. And since we're stuck indoors all the time, and since a lot of people are becoming more socially conscious, it's obvious, I think, at least to me, in circles I have, that people want to feel like they can make at least a little difference outside of just feeling that temporary vindication that I mentioned earlier. So when you use the platforms properly and when you look at all sides of the story and try to intelligently make your point, I think that's when cancel culture, or what I like to coin it better as um, accountability and using social media and digital platforms as your way of doing that, I think that's when it clicks and that's when it works. It's not all the time, but I think it goes and happens a lot more than people give it credit for, and that most people tend to latch on to the idea that it's just bad when I think there's a lot of merit to it. It's just that the bad usually gets more exposed than the good. So sorry, that's a little bit long-winded, but that's my
No,
point.
no, I think you made a good point. And we've had a number of exchanges about this, and it's good that you pointed out what you feel are can be the negative and can actually be the positive, right? And we can dig deeper into that, but I want to hear what Kish thinks.
Well, the reason I said I knew you were gonna do that is because I knew you were going to spring a very difficult question on us, because that's what you always like doing when we have dinner, when we go out. We like having these kinds of conversations. But to go off on what Rock said, I think cancel culture obviously nowadays has a very negative connotation when you think about the word, for good reason. I mean, sometimes it's very discouraging to even participate in social topics and discussions. Personally, I have always found it very difficult to come up with an opinion on a certain issue. I get very scared when the topics are very controversial, which I'm sure is the same for a lot of people. I wish I were more, I had more conviction in coming up with my opinions on things. But things like cancel culture can be very scary. It can be very, you know, discouraging to a lot of people who do want to become more socially aware. I think with what Rock said, to boil it down to, is it evil or is it, ruining society now, is a very simple minded way of looking at it, because it really depends on the people who are, doing the canceling, people who it's also nuanced. So I think it also boils down to your why, like you say many times, because if the why is now, let's get instant gratification from, taking somebody down just because we feel like they've made a mistake or for whatever reason, I think that's not the right reason to do something. So, it really, like most things, and like we've taught us so many times, it really boils down to your why, and anything can become a bad thing if your why is not correct. So, you know that's the kind of discussion you have to have when talking about very difficult topics, not just, cancel culture is like the death of society. Like you just can't say something like that. Yeah.
Wow, you guys are so mature. Wow, we're such adults. Okay, no, but seriously, I think Kish, you've also made a good point, and I'm glad that and it's not just me, but admittedly, I'm so fond of talking about my why, what people's whys are, and stuff, and I think it's really my goal there is really just to get to the core of what your thoughts are, what your values are, and to me that's always driven by your why. So it's a good point that you're making. If your why is you just want to be part of this group or this mob, if I can call it that just finds instant gratification in hiding behind a keyboard and shooting out an opinion and hoping that they take someone down, then I think that's my thinking there is that's a wrong why. I mean, that's not why we're in existence, right? And as you said, in relation to what Rock was saying, the spirit behind it, and these are my thoughts. The spirit behind it are most of the time, if it's from a good person, it's coming from a good place. It's you're speaking your mind about the issue that you feel strongly about. My beef with it is, and if I can just share my point of view on it, is I don't have a problem with the spirit. I have a problem with the wrong why or the wrong intent. But my biggest problem really is very simple. It's the terminology. The fact that it's called cancel culture. To me, that's what I completely disagree with. Because you know, as you guys know as well, I'm a person. I don't believe in group think. I don't believe that you need to be part of a group and you need to behave and think like everyone in that group. To me, that's the death of intelligent and civil society. We need to have an opinion that's our own, and as importantly, we need to have the right and the freedom to express that opinion, of course, in a civilized manner. But we need to have a right to express our opinions, and I will fight for that right, for someone to be able to do that. To me, that's something. I don't care what group or faction you belong in, but to me, it's the basic thought of suppressing someone's opinion that bothers me. And maybe we can get into what Rock mentioned earlier, like James Gunn, right? That example. I mean, it's happening now in the U.S. and all of these progressive, countries and societies, right? That it's actually biting people in the back. How far do you need to go to cancel someone? Like Rock, what year did James Gunn tweet that tweet? Suppose, well, it's proven. What year did he do that?
Like about 2 years ago, I think, right before the quarantine hit. So 20,
Oh, really?
like
Oh,
early
well, that's pretty
2020.
recent. So,
Yeah.
well, that's we can argue about that. But some people are actually getting canceled for things that they said in college when they're like 50, 60 years old now. I was the most irresponsible person in college, and I've matured and changed. And I think people do that, right? And that happens to people. So are we saying that something that I did or said in college in a completely different time and in a completely maybe different context is gonna get used to judge me or judge someone and get that person canceled? What do you guys think about that?
Well, to your point, I think I can bring up something a bit more, something I like a lot. It's funny how you mentioned um, how people tend to. I think the one general, I can describe it only as the one format that people use to call someone out is to call something in their past, which is a very general thing. But I think with the use of Twitter and stuff like that, it's easier to look at a past or the archives of someone's words and then like say point fingers and say that's what they are. So I'm a big fan of music. I love music. Uh, and one of the artists that I really appreciate, I respect, his name's Tyler the Creator. In fact, released an album yesterday and it was really good. To your point, I think that people don't realize just how different it is to call someone out when they've already changed very drastically. Case in point with Tyler, many people don't know because he's such a young artist. He's only 24, 27. He's really young, but he's already released 7, 8 albums and not inclusive of mixtapes and collaborative work. Back when he was doing his first album, he thrived off of being a troll. He thrived off of saying stuff just because it was funny to him or just because it made people offended. A lot of the times in music, in some of his most popular songs, he does a lot of references to things as far as racism, like really blatant racism. A few videos he did whiteface, which is the opposite of blackface, where you copy a white person just by putting white paint on you. He does a lot of jokes about sexism. He does a lot of jokes about you know, families and how they're treated in a black system, and some of the most drastic things. He did a whole song about or making fun about rape, sexual assault, necrophilia, and it was his brand of being, the fact you're offended is what makes you dumb because this is just a song. It's just the internet. You're not supposed to take it seriously. And a lot of people did call him out, but they didn't call him out as much as they would have today because that was back then when people weren't so keen on, using the internet. So now the thing about Tyler is that he's grown to become such a different person. Back when he was making fun of gay people and disabled people, he turned out that he was in the men, and it was revealed that an album or two ago he revealed through his songs that he was bisexual. He was in the guys at that point. He was confused and angry, and he explained it all through his songs. And now on this album, it's like a whole retrospective of how he grew and how he developed into how he is today, and that the past changed him into who he is now, and he wouldn't change that because that's growth. And that exactly is what I mean when I want to say that I think that this whole culture, or at least the most vocal parts of this culture, don't consider how important it is to see growth and development in a person. It's one thing to obviously want to see absolute responsibility from someone who did something really bad or something that our law mandates is illegal, something that our normal or societal norms would dictate as, this clearly needs some, um, the word I'm looking for is like, it's something that the person who did something bad would give back,
Mhm.
whether it be time in like, jail or
Mm.
community service, those types.
Accountability, as you
Yeah,
said. Yeah.
exactly. Those kind of things are entirely different from what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that, when you do something that's bad, but it's not something that isn't, what society would say, throw them in jail or something. If it's something you did as a mistake, and then whether or not you own up to it right away, if you're given the time to change and then you become someone completely different 10, 5, or even like 3 years down the line, that's when I would agree when I'd say that, this whole culture online has really taken away from that aspect of waiting for a person to grow, because there's only so much that you can realize when you're so young. And then when you instantly find yourself in a position of people calling you as someone that can never change or someone that will always be that one thing, someone who will embody the tweet you made 10 years ago about making fun about a disabled Pinoy, like that's when it's that's when it's really bad. And unfortunately now most days, people will latch onto that idea that, that's what this whole culture produces solely, when instead there's so much more that it can do and it has done. But I feel like, or at least I'd hope so, that nowadays that people use their media more, that people can form their own perspective and do a little research, and not let this thing lump into what it's been lambasted for like, I wouldn't say so long, but for the past few years more increasingly. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before like Kish jumps in, right? Just a quick point there. Can you imagine if this happened like more recently? What you're describing about Tyler, the creator. If this happened recently and he was canceled, what we're or I don't listen to him, but like yeah, I've listened to him once or twice, but like people like you who really like him, right? Can you imagine if he was canceled? Then the world would have missed his artistry, his talent, his music, etc. Right? I mean, and to your point, right? I mean, it's not as if, and I'm not absolving anyone. Again, just to make this clear, but again, the guy didn't kill anyone. The guy didn't rob anyone. The guy didn't steal from anyone. He had an opinion, whether it was wrong or right, and that can be up for another debate. But the severity of it, I think, is one thing that is happening now is we miss out on so many other opinions because people are just so eager to, I just want to hear this one thing. And if you disagree with it and if you don't speak along the same narrative, you're canceled. I don't want to hear you, right? And to me, that's what starts the decay of a civilized society. Kish, ikaw, have you ever been canceled?
Mm.
I don't think so. I'm too laid back, too much of a people pleaser to ever be canceled so far in my life. But to your point, I think another aspect of this whole thing is, because if the goal would then be to cancel somebody on Twitter and then feel gratification for doing something good, I wouldn't really classify it as helping at all, unless you're willing to educate the person who you think did something wrong. So I can cancel so many people and say you were racist before, or you were sexist before, but if I'm not willing to put in the work to educate someone on why I think they're wrong, they may still disagree with me, but if I put in the work to explain why I think something should be, someone should be held responsible for something, I think if you're going to do it the correct way, if there even is a correct way to do it, then you need to be willing to allow people to learn. Like what Rock said, you have to allow people to grow. You can hold people accountable for something they've done, but you have to acknowledge that it's possible it's because they didn't know any better, and
Mhm.
you as a person who may know better on this, like for example, if I were a white person, for example, who knew nothing about white privilege or anything like that, to be educated then by a person of color who has gone through the same struggles, I would, I think, be okay with educating a person, even if I may have been offended by what they had done, because
Mhm.
maybe they really just didn't understand. So I
Or
think,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
or go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, or to me, I'll take that a step further, and then maybe you guys can disagree or agree with this, or we can move to another topic. But to me, you're right. I mean, if a person offended me, or I felt offended, or I felt bothered by a person's opinion, I'm not gonna call him out in the sense that people are getting called out now. I may reach out to him and tell him, you know what, I disagree with your opinion, as we do. I mean, you guys know that, right? I mean, I think what we've tried to do in this household, your mom and I, is that we've always encouraged free thinking. But I've most especially have encouraged expressing an opinion, and standing by your opinion and being ready to talk about and defend your opinion, not just because you want to convince that other person that you're right. It's really just sharing your point of view and hoping that okay, there's more understanding between us. But at the end of the day, and we always, I mean, we've done this so many times at the dinner table, right? When it gets a little more heated than it's comfortable, we just say, okay, well, I respect you, you respect me. Let's agree to disagree. It's just a cliche phrase, but it's one of my favorite phrases actually, even if it's a cliche, because it's what it means is you have an opinion, I have an opinion. We may not meet, And that may be a good thing because now the world has two opinions on the table rather than just one, homogeneous one that doesn't look at all sides. And to me that's a civilized society when we're able to sit down and talk about it calmly or even passionately, but at the end of it agree that, okay, thanks for sharing your opinion. Here's mine, right? Kish, you froze, or did you fall asleep?
Or am I just not moving?
No, she's like,
No, I'm just
No,
listening.
no, no. You were like this. You're like this,
Oh, am I?
dude. You fell
Oh
asleep.
no, I didn't. It's my
Okay,
phone.
okay.
Am I still frozen now?
no, you're
No,
good.
no, you're moving.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, I think we spent a bit of time on this, but interesting topic. Okay, let's move on. Talk about other things. Kish, you mentioned earlier, and I think this is something. It's an interesting topic to get into. Um, and again, just to get more serious, and just be a little bit more, how do you call it, thoughtful about this discussion. Um, why do you guys think that I'm a great dad? No, no.
Happy Father's Day.
No,
Yeah,
here
happy
na lang,
Father's
here na
Day.
lang. Okay, before we jump into a next topic, let's just share so people can get a peek on in our a bit of a peek into our heads. Name the name your most and least favorite thing about Rock and me, and let's go around.
Okay.
You
Me
most
first.
muna, yeah, most. Be honest, ah.
Um. Okay. For dad, I would say my favorite thing about my dad is how protective he is. Which is a weird answer from a kid because most kids would be like, I want my
I
dad
hate
to
that.
stay away from
Yeah,
me. I
yeah.
want my
Stay away. Yeah.
and my dad like, yeah, like stay out of my business. But I always think about how, Rock and I were raised, and there were times where I would think, oh, my parents are too strict or things like that. But now that I'm older, I think you did it the right way. I think Rock and I are doing good. We don't feel
Yeah, you
we're
guys are
repressed
you
as
guys are
children, or
okay.
we're okay. But yeah, I would say how protective you are is my favorite thing. Protective in the sense of, how you make sure we're safe, you make sure we're happy, you make sure we don't feel like our lives are lacking in any way. So yeah, I think that would be my favorite thing. My least favorite thing about you is
Be honest. I know when you're
I
lying.
think I will be honest. I think you can I see some contradictions sometimes in the way you're very passionate about your opinions, and you always say how you want to have a discussion and about many things. But and I'm sure there are times where you um can have very strong bias about certain things already, and um as much as you say you want to have a conversation, I think there's some things that you are not open to,
Mm.
you know discussing further, which it happens to all people, but I would say it's quite difficult sometimes to have discussions with you knowing how stern you are about certain things.
Yeah, I mean, I can be a real dick when I believe in
Yeah,
something, and I know that. I
yeah.
mean, it goes beyond this household.
We know. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I think I'm glad that we were conscious of it. It's not something that I think people do on purpose. It's just an opinion. But yeah, thank you. What about Rock? No, no, as in Kish, you. What's your most and least favorite
Oh,
thing
me
about
about
Rock?
rock. My favorite thing about rock is how you would think he's the most like fly on the wall kind of guy, but when you talk to him, he's like the most intelligent person you can have a conversation with. Like, I don't know, because Rock and I, our dynamic is very, we're not super close, but we've never fought, so we don't sit down regularly and have very long conversations. So when we have talks like this at the dinner table, that's when I realize how intelligent he is and well spoken. That's something I like about him. Because I feel like if you left me alone with Rock for an extended period of time, like I would never be bored. Like I feel this most when we travel because Rock and I always get stuff together because obviously you and mom and me and Rock, like we're four. So I think that's when I feel it the most with Rock. I think my least favorite thing about Rock is I always thought, no offense, you're my brother, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do think there are times he can be kind of snobby about things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's just demeanor, but sometimes like I remember I would ask him like music opinions or movie opinions, and I would be kind of scared to give my opinion because like something about Rock was just kind of snobby sometimes.
He
Mm.
is.
But I also think it's because he's intelligent. So like it's a double like what I said about both of you. It's two sides of the same coin, like your flaws and your strengths. So yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank
Thanks.
you. It was very honest.
This feels like a retreat.
Is this is the family counseling we've been needing this entire pandemic?
Yeah, but I think it's a nice way for us to to express what we know of each other. I mean, we like I don't think it's 100% surprising to any of us what we're gonna say or what we've said. It's nice to to talk about it, and I think it's for people who are watching. I mean, this isn't just for the three of us. For people who are watching, I think it's a nice sneak peek into how we really feel about each other. Rock, what about you?
Okay. I think starting with my dad. I think my favorite thing about you is I think it's twofold. I think the first thing is that I've always appreciated and respected how open of a relationship you make, our family. Um, Let me be the first to say that I'm not the most open person with you guys. I'm not very, you know, it connects back to like what Kish said that I'm kind of snobby. I can be kind of closed off, and I think that's natural for me. I think for as long as I've known my demeanor is that I'm very, I wouldn't say shy. It makes no sense, but I feel a lot more guarded when I'm with you guys because obviously I treat it as we're a family, and there's no upside or downside. It's just you're my parents, you're my sister, and I'm blessed for that. But I think to that point is that I'm really happy that you've made our lines very clear. You've taught us very specific things that make sense when we actually think about it. When I grew up, I didn't know what you were talking about. Sometimes I just said, "Okay, I'll just do it." But now that I'm here, I'm 20. I've grown up. I finished high school and all that. It now clicked for me, and I can look back and see the moments that I did on my own where I applied what you taught me, and I was like, yeah, it works. Um, I'm glad that you make our. I'm glad that you make the way we talk to each other very open. I'll be the first to say this, and this is your podcast, and people that do watch. Let me be the first one to ask anyone who watches if you're, Kish's friends, if you're my friend, if you're dad's friends, if you're a parent, if you're a son, if you're a cousin, um, little by little, try your best to involve yourself with the people around you. It's a very broad thing to say, but I think this episode alone, the fact that we agreed that we wanted to do this with our dad, it shows that when you have a very open, not even very open, but when you have a comfortable life with the people in your household, it can lead to a lot of things that might surprise you. And I have a great life. I try not to forget that every day. I'm not the kind of guy that is very physical with my parents. I'm not someone who says I love you a lot, or I'm not someone who talks very openly. But I always do my best, and I'll always call myself out when I don't, if I don't remain grateful to the people around me who've helped made me who I am. And if there's anything to take away from like this episode or whatever, whoever watches, you know, I would encourage personally to day by day take a step at a time to reconnect with your family. Or if it's not your family, if it's your found family, because I'm a firm believer of the fact that um, it's who you choose that's better than who your blood is, and it doesn't need to be. It should never be who you're born with that sticks with you. If you find your family somewhere else, someone outside of your lineage, and that's who you want to be with, and that's who you should be with. So even then, if you find it hard to connect with them, then I encourage you to do so because there's a lot you can, take away from it. So yeah, I'm grateful my dad's as cool as he is, and he lets us be, and he always does his best to provide for us, and and if there's ever a complication, he always wants to talk about it, and I'm forever grateful for that. And the least thing I like about you, hmm, that's a lot. No, I'm just joking. The thing
Least
I
nga
like,
eh.
yeah, the thing I like least, I think it connects to with Kisha because you can't really take away what people have experienced in their lives. I think a lot of people like to say it's a generational gap and that we're all born in a different era under different circumstances, and you can make of that what you will. But we know a lot about what our dad's been through. He's very transparent when he talks about his childhood, how he's brought up, how people have affected him, and it's not illogical for me to see why he believes things that he does, and he's fully responsible for that. I mean, he grew up that way. You can't take that away from anyone. You shouldn't be able to take away the perspective of someone in their lifetime, but that doesn't give me or my sister or my mom or anyone that my dad knows, the inability to call him out when he, something that doesn't align with what we have grown to believe. Now, luckily, we were all born in a very lovely household, as a lot of people we do know as well. And it's very different for other people. A lot of people I know who grew up in very shitty households, and they don't get the chance to align their perspective with their family. They don't get the chance to healthily discuss and to understand why they don't see the way they do. So, I'm glad that I can see my differences that I have with you, my dad. But I'd say there are a lot of times where it does rub off a lot on me that, you know, there are a lot of things that there are a lot of things that you do stand by that I wish you would budge a bit by, but I know that you grew up very differently, and it would take a new experience in maybe your future in this lifetime to realize that there's something different to something that you might be seeing very strongly with. Um, and I feel like, yeah, that it can get to you sometimes. And when that hits you, when you get in a bad mood because of it, it really comes off very strong. Oh, and one more thing, because I can get the chance to say it here. I think that, mm, I think that, how honest can I be? Can I be like really
Uh,
honest?
Completely,
Okay.
110%.
I feel like there's a lot of situations in your life. I don't want to psychoanalyze you or anything. I'm your son, but I feel like there are a lot of. I feel like as a dad, you love being in control, not in a bad way, but you like being the person who takes charge in a situation, and that I think any dad should. Because if a dad didn't have that quality at least by a little, then it's really hard to maintain a good family. But more often than not, you're someone who really loves to say that I'll take care of it, or ako na lang, I'll leave this to me. And I feel like more often than not, especially as we get older, there are a lot of situations in our house where you take control, or where you decide, hindi, ako na lang. You guys just sit by, and then you whatever, you just sit there, I'll do it. Where we could have done it. Well, all of us are old enough to do something to help you. And what the cause and effect is that you do something, it puts you in a bad mood, or you're already, in fact, when you're in a bad mood, you usually like to unnecessarily take control of situations. And then you do it, and then you're in a worse mood, and then we can't do anything because we can't just, we'd have to argue with you, and we don't have the energy for that. And I feel like that should let you know that when you're in a bad mood, or when you catch yourself wanting to say, I'll take care of this piss on the floor, or I'll take care of the manual labor, like it you shouldn't use that as a tool to feel better when you feel like there's something in your life that's bothering you or taking away control from you. I don't know everything that's happening personally with you, but a lot of times it's clear to me that something's bugging you, and then you try to do something to make yourself feel better because that's where you're comfortable. Okay, it's a lot. With Kish, wow, I didn't really get a chance to think about that. I think the best thing that I love about you is that I don't know. I think you're just a very you have you have a really good heart. I think it. I was lucky that we were born close, not in like close, but I mean in age because we're only 3 years away from each other. I think I would have had a completely different perspective if I was like a kid and you were your age. Like I was 10 years old and now you're 20. I feel like I'd be very different. But since we were born so close, we got to grow up together in the same headspace with relatively the same personality, and I feel like you've shown me you've shown me a lot to be proud of because I want to start it off with that um you're very transparent with the issues you have. It's very funny because me and you have very completely different life issues. You know, most of the stuff you deal with is very mental. I have a lot of physical ailments, but I'm usually fine mentally, and you're fine physically. Like you showed me a lot about how it pays off to be, you know, I don't know if it's a word, but to persevere through a lot of the things that you go through. And I don't see it myself. I don't experience it, but I do have people I know that go through the sort of ringer that you do. But to see it with my own sister and the fact that you continuously come off the other side and then you continue to keep moving and that you've done a lot in your lifetime. You've succeeded in so many things that it kind of boggles me that you have such a long list of I don't want to say credentials, but you've racked up a lot of things to be feel good about, in school, in your life, and it's always surprised me how when I was young, we were the same age, but I didn't really pay much attention to it about how it turned out early in your life you had you were a lot of worse things you were dealing with. You were apparently a very lonely kid, and you had a lot of maybe things you weren't proud of. And then I look at that, and then I see how many people in high school and college, how much of a name you built for yourself, and then now you're working where you work with all the things under your belt. I mean, to me, that's what I like most is just that I have a good person as a sister. So, that scratches it off. The thing I
Thanks,
don't
that's
like,
sweet.
thank you. The thing I don't like the most, I can't think of, I mean,
Wow.
thing,
Oh, come on, you can think of something.
no, because we never got the space for me enough to know if I disliked you enough or not. But like,
I get what
I
you mean, though.
yeah, because like
Yeah.
I can't really. I feel like I'd be too general. Like something specific is hard. But I think the one thing I think I could say I don't really like fuck with that much is that um I think
You could
no,
say
because
it.
you might get conscious. Can I say it?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. I think like what it's not even like a bad. I think the thing that annoys me, like, because you do this thing where after a lot of things you say, I don't know if you do it with like your friends or whatever, but like when you're with us or in the table, you'll do this laugh after a lot of your sentences, and I get really annoyed. I don't know why. Like I think like when you're just talking and then like you suddenly do like it's a very specific laugh, and then I just get ticked off. I don't know why. I just think you shouldn't laugh that much
Oh
when you
no,
talk.
it might be that.
It might be that, yeah. And it's very often. I think every time you talk, I'm like, yeah, there. That's
That's
it. I can't think of anything else.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
I think I
sorry.
know what
It's
you're
funny
talking
because
about.
Yeah.
Dad has the same take about mom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
sorry if you got
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think that's funny.
it's
Yeah,
about it.
thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, very
Like
interesting.
I also know what you're talking about. Like it happens to a lot of people. It's like you have to laugh at the end of every sentence.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's that.
I did it.
Yeah, it's
That's
like when you're texting someone, parang you feel the need to put like haha or
Mm-hmm.
like
yeah.
an emoticon
So
or an emoji.
yeah.
Sige. Well, interesting. Thanks for the honesty, kids. And not to turn this into a retreat, but I think, like I said, diba? I mean, most of these things that we've shared here online are it's not 100% me. It's not 100% surprising to me because we've talked about those things, and I know those are like my flaws and how they affect you, and and I think more importantly, more than knowing, it's really accepting, diba? And trying to be not to do that because it bothers other people. Um, Sige, ako quickly before we round this part of
Yeah,
the discussion of
for you talking.
Kikish. My most favorite thing about you, I think, is um, hmm, okay. I'm gonna cheat. It's not just one thing. I think in general, and we've talked about this, and I think my most favorite thing about you is the similarities that we have. We always joke about how we're so similar in a lot of things, physically, if that's okay with you. But there's some similarity. I mean, you look more than me. I think then you look more than you look him up. And the some of our issues and some of our insecurities, and you know, and and, and I think to some extent it's a very self-serving answer that it turned out a bit like me, so I like it. But at the same time, I think it also gives you a chance to, as you said, be more clear about what you want to do in life. You're clear about your goals. You're clear about your values. You're clear about how you deal with people. You're clear about how you want to approach relationships, etc. And I think that clarity of thought, although you're the first one who would say that you're the complete opposite, but and we always tell you that you actually have a very creative and process driven brain, right? I mean, you appreciate creative things, but you also have this ability to sit down and say, okay, I think this isn't working, I think it's going to work. um and and that's something that, as Rock said, I think has taken you as far as you've gone in your young life, and I think it's something that you're going to take with you as you move forward in your life as well. My least favorite, and you know this, you can get too emotional at times, and
Mhm.
that's not bad. That to the people listening, I mean, I'm also a very emotional person, but like Kish has very, shallow tears. um, and it's good because it shows that she's a sensitive person. But what I've tried to tell her also is sometimes you just need to tough it out through certain situations. And
Yeah.
uh, you know, there will be bigger problems. So the way you react to the problems that you have will be, it's a window as to how you may react to the bigger problems in your life, um, as you move ahead. So that's that. But you know that already.
Mm.
Rock, I think, okay, not, no, I don't think. I know that my most favorite thing about you is your compassion. And, mom and I have always told you about that. You're a very compassionate person. As you said, I think, not that it's generational, but I think you on your own, you always think about, okay, how will I make the world a better place? And again, that's a corny cliche, but it's really something I think that we believe in, and I think it's very admirable. And in that sense, I think you take that from your mom, because you know how I am. I mean, I don't
Mm-hmm.
give a fuck about so many things. Um, but I think it's really that it's your compassion that for people that has taken you this far and will take you in farther into your life. My least favorite um, is when because like Ate said, you can be a bit of a snob, and you can sometimes come off na parang, when I ask you a question, parang, you have this face na parang, like, are you seriously asking me that question? Or do I need
Mm-hmm.
to answer this question? Or isn't it obvious, Dad? So, may ganon, diba? Which, I'm not saying it's bad, but we've also spoken to you about that. It may put some people off, and it might put you in a bad situation. There. So anyway, after that very heartwarming episode, part of our episode, um, wait, sige, let's get. Okay, I have a word.
Up, up, up.
Wow, influencer.
It's not focusing. Anyway, I have
No.
an app. So it's a word generation app. So let's do like 5 words na lang. Parang 10's a little long. So I'll tap a word, and then let's like just give a super short, like 30-second first thing that comes to your head. Let's start with the medium words first.
Mm.
Okay. Wait. Ayan, sige. Circus.
Mm, mm,
Rock.
why did you get so into Cirque? Is that what it's called? Cirque du Soleil? The way you started watching.
Yeah.
Why did you start watching that more? Did you just get bored and then you just wanted to watch like the circus more? Or...
Yeah, I was just running like now, like recently. I
But
was running
nowadays,
out of
yeah.
stuff to watch. But as you know, Mom and I have always been fans of Cirque du Soleil.
Mm.
In fact, when I was a kid, I used to watch, and it's some this we watched this in when we were in Washington, the Ringling Brothers. Remember that
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
yeah.
circus? We used to watch. I used to
Mhm.
watch that a lot because they used to show that on TV when I was like 9 or 10. And Cirque du Soleil is fantastic. So yeah, Kish.
The first thing that came to my head was that we watched the circus, like you said in Washington. I remember watching that, and as much shit as people rightly give about circuses and like animal cruelty and stuff, I do remember going to the circus as a kid, and it was fun. And then also the movie that came out 2 years ago, was it The Greatest Showman? Yeah, because I love that
Mm-hmm.
movie. Even if a lot of people say it's a bad movie, I love that movie, and the soundtrack is banger.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nope, you're muted.
You're muted.
No, just edit it out.
Sorry.
Yeah, edit
He's a
it out.
professional, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So me complete different direction. When I saw the word, I thought about the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know my opinion about the country and why
Yeah.
we're here. I mean, I'm not gonna get into that, but um, yeah, it's a circus with a lot of clowns. So I'm hoping that gets better. Anyway, next word, actually words, because I clicked the really hard category now. It says beat around the bush.
Around.
Me,
Mm.
I always beat around the bush.
Mm-hmm.
As I said earlier, I'm a very number one. I'm a people pleaser. Number two, I have very hard time expressing my opinion. And like what you said, also I'm very emotional, so it's very hard for me to get to the point of what I'm trying to say. I think it's something I've gotten better at, with a lot of push from you, trying to trying to get me to have these conversations and be better. I think I also got a lot better in college and work, but it is something that I relate with very much, not being able to get straight to the point.
Mhm. Rock?
Around the bush. I wonder where that came from. I don't really know where that word comes from. Beat around the bush.
I know,
Really
right? I mean, were
weird.
people actually beating around bushes?
No, I think it's just it's actually a funny thing. Like when you think about idioms, like how did someone just say something out of nowhere and then it just stuck?
Yeah.
But like to me, what that word means, beat around the bush. I know a lot of people that do that. It's really annoying, but like you kind of get it because I think most people do it very unconsciously at most points of their life. I don't think people grow out of it. I think it's on the more serious side, people aren't obviously easy to open up with. I mean, people don't open up easily, and that's natural. You can't just, if it's a very heavy topic, you can't just get to the point immediately because how can you? I mean, it's only human to want to build up to that first or deflect for a bit until someone, you know, opens up and says, I'm good if you want to talk about that. On the other side, like you could just condense 800 words into like a single sentence. It's not that
True.
hard, especially that. I mean, I grew up in. I don't know if this was how it was in Assumption, but in CSA, uh, I mean, it was a very comm heavy school, and they. If there's one thing I can take away from CSA, is that a lot of teachers I had, not the system, the school is still like any other school system, but many teachers are really good. And a lot of teachers I had were always keen on like teaching us, say as little as you can with the most meaning, like
Mm.
don't, this happens a lot even with me. A lot of people like to stroke their own ego and then build up like a story, a conversation or something with so much like, build up and, oh, I'm flexing how good I am at talking, but you're not actually saying anything. I think
Yeah.
that my sister and my dad can relate to it the most when the thing they're in the most recently, which is work. A lot of people don't know how to efficiently talk,
Oh God.
and I know this gets on
Mm.
their. I know it gets to them more than it gets to me because I'm a very patient. I tend to be more patient than I like to be, but with them,
No,
like
but wait till you get
no, yeah,
to
yeah,
work.
yeah. When it
I
gets to
mean, to
work, it's
working.
I already feel
Yeah,
some of that in college. It's really shitty, but
yeah.
I think in
Man,
general,
a lot
yeah.
of people, kasi beat around. Sorry, I interrupted. But
No,
to
good,
your
good.
point, a lot of people beat around the bush, and these are my thoughts. It's because they really don't have anything to say.
No,
So parang just to get your 1 minute onto the table, you just like go around and, as you said, you're trying to flex, how you think, how well you put your ideas across, but you're not really doing it. I think it's one of the things that it's one of the most. I mean, it wastes so much time,
yeah.
and I just wish people would just get direct to the point, diba? Learn to say what you mean. The next word is scorch. Hard, no? This is the really hard two. Really hard two, because there's a really hard one category, but really hard two is scorch.
Oh, does that make it like worse or better? Is
I
two
don't
like
know.
worse than one?
I
Scorch.
guess
Scorch.
scorch. Ako, what comes to mind lang is if we'll go back to cancel culture. Parang there's a lot of I don't know, parang fondness for people to burn other people and show how much better you are than them. Um, so I think it's uso. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and some people take it as a compliment when you tell them, oh, you just burned that guy. To me, it's not about that, right? I mean, it's not about burning. If I have a better opinion and I'm able to express it better,
Mm-hmm.
good for me. It's not that I want to burn someone. Well, maybe sometimes, especially when they're like stupid. But that's
Yep.
another topic. Wait, let's go to the next word. Ah, here, this is interesting. Three more na lang. Sige, three more. It's a long phrase, but it's beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, shit. You want to go first? I can't think of anything.
Sige, me, and this is related to what you were saying, right? When I become like a bigger asshole than I usually am when we're talking, and I express an opinion, and I get really aggressive, and I get into a bad mode. To me, kasi what this means is it connects to my values. And I understand, Rock, where you're coming from when you say a lot of it. A lot, as most humans, if not all, no, most humans, it's really how your youth and your background and everything that formed you that brings you to where you are now. And to me, there's some values to me that are we can discuss it, but it's gonna take like some really major thing for me to change some of the values that I hold. Whether that's wrong or right, we can debate about that as well, diba? But I think for me, what it means is beyond the shadow of a doubt. It's just something that you believe in, and it's something to stand by with. Um, that's what it means to.
Be honest, it's a big word. I mean, I just thought of like I don't like. I feel like this is like a me thing in my age, but like people who use that word in like casual like conversations are just the most annoying people. Like you just say beyond the shadow of a doubt. You're right. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Just talking normal. Just say, I think it's this thing. You don't have to. A lot of people are so funny when they try to. Look, I don't know. Maybe my circles are different. I don't know if people have circles where it's fun to talk in huge lingo, which is a lot to say because people I tend to talk in different words. But if you use, I think, given how old I am and how people I know act, like it's so much more fun to just be dumb and just talk dumb instead of just trying to one up each other and like bring a word you don't know. It's like just shorten your words, man. You don't need to. You don't need to be annoying. I hate annoying people that try to be super like snobby. I just don't like that.
Intellectual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like also just putting up a front. It's like just
Yeah.
maybe it's hard to be yourself, but I think that you'd have an easier time in the long run if you just dropped all the fake stuff and just be you. So
Good point.
Me?
Kish?
What Rock said made me think, because I'm the type with sentences like that or idioms like that, I'm never sure if it's correct. Like I always have to Google it before I say it to someone. Like I will know that that's the term, but because the language, like why do we even say that for that meaning? I always have to Google it before I say it to someone. I remember the other day I was talking to a friend and I couldn't remember if the sentence was I didn't bat an eye or I didn't bat an eyelash. And I had to Google it and I was like, they both sound correct to me, but I don't know which one's the right one. So yeah, with stuff like that, I always have to Google it to make
Wait,
sure
what
that I'm
school
not
did you graduate from again?
not anymore. I'm sure people can relate.
yeah.
I wouldn't bat an eye. Lash.
It's I, right?
I think it's I wouldn't bat an
Eyelash.
eye. Eyelash, but
It's I Googled it and it's
Are you
I.
serious?
See,
Then I'm
so
wrong. Don't you bat an eyelash? Like,
exactly. That's
do you bat an eye?
that's why
How do you
you
bat
should
an eye?
Google it.
no, I think
Yeah,
it's
Rock's
both.
googling it now.
You can use both. It's I don't know. I'm not looking further. It just says you can
Or
say
it
both.
might be both. Yeah, see.
Yeah.
See, so I have to Google it. But yeah,
True.
there you go.
Or you can just cheat. Like, what, sir, I wouldn't even bat an eye. Lash. No, but yeah, I mean, I think Rock and you both of you are making a good point. Diba? Kish, tayo kasi we've had this discussion. Especially Rock if you get into like a more corporate setting.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, it's.
I mean, people are just so. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean,
jargon.
I mean the corporate jargon thing. It's become. There's so many memes about it, so many articles written about it, but people are still so. Like I'll circle back. Or what are the other like annoying? We need to establish a cadence for.
Yeah.
Dude, just tell me like we need to set a meeting like twice a week, right? I mean that's what you want to say. So anyway,
Yeah.
if it rocks their boat, then it makes them feel better. Then sige lang. Okay, last word. Infect.
Oh,
Kish.
I don't want to go to the obvious answer. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Infect. Yeah, I don't want to say the obvious thing. So if you have anything else to say
Sige,
related to this,
I'll jump
please
in
go
quickly.
ahead.
Baka it will start it. So to me, in fact, again, in the context of today and even this technology that we're using, I think the internet and social, like me, right, our generation, me and mom, like we literally grew up. Well, no, we didn't grow up. We literally saw the beginnings of the internet. I mean, our generation, we saw that, right? We really saw that we came from a generation that had none of it, and a generation now that has all of it. So to me, of course there are a lot of good things. The fact that we can get this thing on Zoom is great, right? But to me, the biggest infection that's also spread and is still spreading around the world is this the ignorance of the impact of technology that has found its way into our daily lives. To me, that will be the potentially the end of mankind as we know it. I mean, heavy stuff, but I think it's really that. It's not knowing how to use it and what to do with it. I think is one of the greatest pandemics beyond COVID that will go down in history for mankind.
In fact, I don't really know, but then you brought up that like whole point about growing up and seeing people my age do that stuff, and like it got me thinking like I'm so fond of the. Now this isn't kind of really about. In fact, I just wanted to go off like a little tangent
Mm.
because like I just find it so interesting just how much time has really passed in life, just generally. Because right now we're in the year 221 or 2021. How many centuries later? I'm part of a boatload of generations. I grew up in this moment in time with so much history behind me and so much of a future forward. Like, I wondered how people, back in time, what were they thinking when they were having similar stuff like this? If it's just three people of different age in a room just saying what they think about their future. Because, like, everyone's so vocal nowadays. I mean, look at my dad or me or my sister. We're very talkative, but like, there's so much we say and there's so much that we believe in and that we're heavily invested in. But I just think it's so interesting how, in the grand scheme of things, like the next century, the next decade, when we all pass, when our family isn't here anymore, there's another family. Like, what are they gonna say? Are they gonna say we were all idiots for thinking the way we do? Or
Most probably.
in the future, is your idea of tech just completely left field and then it never got that way? And they're like, why would they think that way? And I think the most personal way that relates to me is how many people judge certain things that I love in music or in cinema and all this shit. Like when people say shit grows, or when people are like, people back then they were so dumb for liking that or disliking that much. Like, I don't know where the narrative of everyone's societal opinions is right now. Generally, I don't know what people as a whole believe in, for as much as I see a lot as I do on like media and shit. But I just think it's fun, like thinking forward, because I don't know what the future is gonna be. I'm only 20 years old. I'm about to reach my, adulthood, the new step in my life. Like, I don't know where I'll be when I'm 40 or 50, or when I possibly have a family of my own, or, it's sorry. This is I couldn't think of anything for in fact because it's just it's tossed around so heavily nowadays. But I just kind of wanted to go on a tangent about how interesting perspective is and just how small we are in like the eye of the universe or whatever you believe in. If whatever's looking down on us, like what mark did we leave? We won't be remembered. I'm not gonna be remembered by anyone in the future, really. But I'm glad I made my mark here. But
You don't
that's
know
just
that yet.
I don't know that. Maybe I'll be the greatest, director or something.
Yeah.
Many people unexpectedly become something great, but I think for the normal family of like 20, like how do you even say it, 200, 2105 or some shit like that, if they're living here, if they're living on a reformed earth, or if they're in Mars or some shit, like what are they gonna think, or what's their general what's their general topics when they're just talking with each other? That's really interesting to me because
Yeah, interesting.
because you're so with my dad, he's so strong in his beliefs and his ideas, and I'm also strong with what I think, and my sister. I just wonder what are our ideas going to turn into when we're dead and other people in the future start talking about it. It's just so interesting to me. So
And
that's
to
it.
that point, I think that's a really good point. And to that point, I think that's why it's to me it's interesting to have discussions like like these, because it is a record of how people thought during that time. I mean, I would, what I'd give, for example, to listen in on actual conversations between Jesus and the apostles, or Hitler and his henchmen. I mean,
Yeah.
and the fact that we can do this now, diba? And pass this on, and my, your children, and then their children after that can hopefully look back at this and say, those three, our three ancestors were idiots. To me, it's interesting. Yeah, but you raise a really good point there.
It's fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kish, did you want to say something?
Well, again, not really related to infection. It made me think though, because like Rock was talking about how, you know, people in the future look back on the past and then they say, "Oh, that was so lame," or "That was so stupid," but you don't actually realize how much old stuff like gets recycled. Like, why does all music, not all music, because I'm sure Rock has a much more expansive
Well,
music
for
taste than I
sure.
do, but like, why does music? Yeah, I know. why does why does the music people like now? Why does it sound like 80s music? Or why do people suddenly start taking Polaroid pictures again? Like, why there's part of us that always wants to bring back stuff, or things just naturally cycle back into
Mm,
go, to some extent. So I think
mm.
that's also an interesting way to look at things, like the way we keep progressing forward, but there are some things that will always cycle back into daily life.
Yeah, but then you hope that the things that cycle back aren't gonna kill us.
Of
Like,
course, you
that's
also
also
hope that.
that's that's also one of mankind's biggest follies is, we never learn. I mean, there's so many
Yeah, of
instances that we
course.
never learn.
Yeah.
Um, I'm hoping, for example, when we're out of this pandemic, when it happens again, because it will, and you just hope that people are just smarter, and you hope those things don't come back around. Yep. Okay. So we've gone beyond the 60-minute mark. Um, I think there's so much more to talk about. So I think we can do another episode. Ah, ah, ah.
Recurring guests, regulars.
Yeah, recurring guests.
When you're much bigger and you have like a second season or something.
Yeah, like if I have 35 subscribers na. Like, so,
Huwag
okay,
naman doble
people.
naman.
Yeah, sige, 46, 56. Yeah, so no, I kid about these subscribers and shit, but of course it's nice to see people watching you. But in the end, to me, it's really conversations, diba? And you know how much fun I have talking to people I like. Let me put that into the right context, because that's how I'm wired. So and that's why I wanted to get into this with you, and hopefully in future episodes, right? I just wink.
Ew.
Fuck, so creepy. Anyway, any last words? Kish, you want to promote your channel? Yeah.
Yeah, so, oh no, I did the laugh again. Oh no. I'm so
That's it.
sorry, Rock. Forgive me.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I do covers, like all different kinds of basic, any song I think will sound nice with my voice, I will sing it. I'm not tied to any genre or anything. You can find me on YouTube. Just search my name, Kinisha Amon. It will show up. So, I hope someday though my dad surpasses me in subscribers.
How
Not
many
that
do
I
you
have
have
many,
now?
but 186. Also very small, but
Fuck, ang layo na nun, ah.
it's not a race, It's not a race. But yeah,
No,
if you're
of course
interested
it's
in
not a
like,
race. But anyway, to the 28 people who are subscribed to this channel, and to those listening, if you haven't heard or you haven't visited Kishi's channel, you're missing out.
thank you.
Some of her covers are better than the originals, and that's my opinion.
He's just being a dad right now.
Yeah, so I'll put the link. Wow, I never thought I'd say
Wow!
that. So I'll just put the link in the comment section. visit her site, YouTube page. Rock, any parting
Mm,
words?
Description.
no, I just wanted
Description
to
pala.
say, I just wanted to say thanks for like having us and for everyone that was a part of this. I guess beforehand, I appreciate that you're making my dad happy. So I know this kind of stuff makes him gives him a lot of happiness, and I think now more than ever, everyone should find what they want to do and just go for it, no matter what happens. I encourage it. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Thanks. Thanks for participating. I hope I didn't embarrass you too much.
We
Just a
hope we
bit.
didn't embarrass you too much.
Yeah.
Of course not. Well, maybe a bit. Anyway, so just hi mom. Maybe next episode we can have
Hi,
mom.
Mom.
Yes, hi mom. Okay, so thanks for joining us in this delayed post Father's Day episode. Um, we wish you well, everyone. We wish all of you well. And we'll see you again. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.